What is one's character? One's character is composed of tangible traits and intangible traits. Some can be genetic derived and most are acquired derived. Tangible traits are those that can be measured, like the physical strength or muscle strength, for example. The intangible traits of character, interestingly, can't be measured, and they are like the trait of compassion, that of courage. These are the intangible traits are expressed through actions and thoughts. Interestingly, others, can see one's intangible traits like courage and commitment, etc. And even more interestingly is individuals can see what's missing, what's a missing intangible. Isn't that amazing? Why do I focus in on both tangible and intangible traits, particularly the intangible traits? I'm an educator. I've been an educator for a number of years, and I've taught students in high school, college, community colleges, universities, and professional schools. And even though I say I'm an educator, I'm really an engineer. My task in helping students learn formative knowledge and skills is to help them to bridge from where they are to where they want to be, to realize their dreams. I think of it as me being an engineer is like building the San Francisco Bridge that went from one side of the San Francisco Bay to the other. And in order to get from one side to the other side, it took making one plank at a time. And so I'm asking on my students is to develop and learn and know one plank of knowledge or skill at a time. I'm demanding, I expect effort, but at the same time, I remember the quote of Theodore Roosevelt. He said, "No one cares as much how much you know until they know how much you care." Therefore, I am a proponent of creating an environment where the students can feel as though that I care. And even more importantly, I try to give them the sense that they know that I believe in each of them and want them to succeed. So let's go back to the task in terms of, I'd like to share with you is in terms of what are some intangible aspects of character that makes a difference in an individual as they go forth in their growth. And I think of intangibles, and I remember the quote of Helen Keller or Winston Churchill say, an intangible is something you can see the invisible, you can touch the invisible, and you can achieve the impossible. And that's really what we're trying to do, is it not, in terms of that we interact with our students to help them to achieve their dreams. And so it's not so much impossible, but it's how to help them go through the various stages of reaching their dreams. I think of it this way. I ask students to think of themselves like an Olympic individual. And I'll talk about the intangible aspects of an Olympian. What are they? Well, I think of the 5 rings of the Olympics that we have. And I think of the first ring as an intangible of an individual is their dreams, their drive, their discipline. The second ring I see, and I think of the belief. Each of those individuals who train for years and hoping to just be eligible to run one event, for example. They train, but they have this belief. They believe in themselves, even when other individuals may not believe in themselves. They still have that intangible of say, I have this belief in myself. They also demonstrates that they have courage, they have commitment, Importantly, they're coachable. And another C of this ring is that they make choices. They try to make the positive choices that continues to help them develop and succeed in doing whatever task that is before them. The other is, other fourth ring would be an attitude. They have an unwavering attitude that no matter what, they will continue to keep as much of a positive attitude as they can. And this final ring here is for P, for they're passionate, but they have the perseverance that they are willing to be uncomfortable to be comfortable. Or let's put it the other way, that these are athletes that will become comfortable being uncomfortable. Whatever the adversity that might be before them, they'll persevere. It's all these traits, these intangibles, gives them a mindset. And that's what I'm asking individuals that may be listening to this in terms of developing exemplary character, is really thinking about taking an inventory and see if there's some elements of their intangibles that they can even strengthen, and remember what it's like and how you can seed on that. This reminds me of this perseverance. It reminds me, and I share this with my students. I have an anatomy text, as you can see here, but I also have in the middle of this text that I want to talk to them about their attitude and their mindset. As I have in here, I have the little engine that could. I want them to think about that little engine as it relates to them in their life. You know, this little engine it says a blue engine here, depends on the edition, but the little engine that could was just an engine in the train yard. Never pulled anything, and all the other big engines would always be asked to pull things over the mountain. And at one time, the little boys and girls, if you read the text, says that they needed to get the toys and other things up and over the mountain. All the other big engines couldn't do it or didn't want to, because one was a passenger engine, one was something else. But someone asked the little blue engine, if they'd be willing. And this little blue engine said, well, I've never done this before. I've never done this before. But the little engine said, I'll try. I think I can. And you know what? That little engine had that perseverance. It had that mindset of an Olympic-like individual. And it puffed and huffed and puffed and puffed and puffed and went up the mountain. And then all of a sudden they got up to the top of the mountain, and the little engine said, I knew I could. I knew I could. I can. It's the I can that we need to help individuals to understand that it's just perseverance that allows one to succeed. What are other aspects in terms of a mindset? Well, I'm glad you asked me, because that reminds me not only of the little blue engine that I shared with my students, but I also talk about two frogs, and it's a poem about the two frogs. And I will say this: two little frogs, it has been said, fell into a can of cream. The sides of the can were shiny and steep, and the cream was deep and cold. And what happened? The first little frog said, "'Tis fate. There's no one here. We can't do this. Goodbye, sad world. Goodbye, my friend." And weeping, parasympathetic 7, by the way, he drowned. But the second little frog was made of sterner stuff. He dog paddled in surprise. He wiped his creamy face, dried his creamy eyes. He said, "It won't do the world to have one more this frog. I think I'll swim for a while." He kicked and swam, kicked and swam, kicked and swam. Not once did he mutter. He kicked and swam, and guess what? He hopped out via butter. Now my students, I say, I think that's the philosophy. But it's not making butter. It's persistent. It's stroke, stroke, kick, kick, stroke, stroke, kick, kick. It's like that little frog. Yes, this little frog. Look, no, this is the number 2 little frog. It it's stroke, stroke, kick, kick. Stroke, stroke, kick, kick. That's what I tell the students. When they say this, Dr. Berry, it's challenging. I'll just say, stroke, stroke, kick, kick. Learn to learn. Stroke, stroke. You know this little frog? And I think of this little frog. It had, what did it have? Let's think about the character. What kind of intangibles did this little frog have? It had perseverance. It had to develop an attitude of endurance. It had, instead of cream, it had grit. It had grit all over it, and it just stroke, stroke, kicked through the endurance. It reminds me of the fact, with regarding to that, is that one's dreams is on the other side of endurance. You have to learn to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Fall 7 times, get up the 8th. And it's also in terms of the I can is more important than IQ. Let me refocus about one's character and we think about how do we develop or how do we improve our intangibles. And in doing that, it reminds me that, we can't be someone to go with Dorothy and Toto down the yellow brick road. No, it's not possible. We can't go to the Wizard of Oz to ask for these intangibles. But you recall that as the Tin Man and the Lion and the Straw Man went with Dorothy and Toto down the yellow brick road, and during the process of talking to the Wizard of Oz, that the Tin Man did get a new heart, or his heart was revealed, and the lion had courage. So again, those were the intangibles. The other aspects, how do you develop that? By making choices. John Mertz talks about it in terms of an individual to develop intangibles. You make the choices. And your choices that you make, you're either going to add to your character or you're going to subtract. And the idea is you try to add more than you subtract. But when you do the negative aspect, which we call a perfect choice, it's important how you counterplay that you understand that you're not going to be perfect, but you keep trying to add as many positives as possible. The other aspect in terms of how you develop these intangibles is that you have to get into an environment. Remember, the environment and experiences is going to help develop you in terms of how you keep this an intangible of the different, whichever intangibles you're trying to work on. I came out of a farming background. I came out of Indiana. And in Indiana, where you plant, you weed, and you harvest. My grandpa was a character builder. He handed me a shovel, or he handed me on a given day a hoe. If he handed me the hoe, then I go out and hoe the weeds away from the corn and soybeans out there. So again, what's in farming? You plant, you weed, and you harvest. So you plant whatever seeds or dreams that you want, but remember you have to be careful of the weeds, not anything native. But the other idea is you harvest, and you're going to harvest your fields of dreams in the process. So environment and how you respond to the given environments and experiences will make a difference. The other thing is that you have to understand that you need to go through a process. And the process, if you listen to the coaches like Bear Bryant, John Wooden, Urban Meyer. They talk about you have to go through the process. You have to work on today. You can't think forward and be thinking about the final score or the final thing. So again, the process is getting to the point that you work on today. It's like an Olympian mindset. I think I've given you through several analogies in terms of how you process and develop a exceptional character. I love this quote. It's by James Davison Hunter. He said, implicit in the word character is a story. And the story is about living one's purpose greater than self. That purpose then is deep within each of us, but its origins are outside of self. So it pulls one forward, channeling one's purposes in almost quiet acts of devotion, heroism, sacrifice, and achievement. And these purposes, which are embedded within, helps translate, listen to this, helps translates character to destiny. Translates character to destiny. Isn't that kind of profound? So my question to you is this. Is your character such that you are self-directed or other-directed? Do you think you are a gift to others? These are questions I think one should think about. Remember, the process of developing a character, exemplary character, is that it's a self-discipline, self-nurturing process. In addition to that, the purposes that you have towards developing your character should be aligned to your true north, your internal compass of moral and ethical aspects of oneself. And the bottom line is then that if you use these purposes of the intangibles of character, that it should add to your purpose of life and your meaning of life. So I say, on your path of developing exceptional character, may your path rise up to meet you. May the wind be to your back. May the sun shine on your face. May the rain softly fall on your fields of dreams. And may the winds of destiny carry you aloft to allow you to reach for your star. John Paul II said, "Be amazed at what heights you're called. Leave a legacy of exceptional character. Stroke, stroke, kick, kick.